All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are diving into something huge, something that's totally reshaped our professional lives, the big shift to remote work. And look, it's so much more than just, working from your kitchen table. It's about completely rethinking what things like productivity and teamwork even mean. So let's break down how we got here and, more importantly, where this is all heading.
For as long as most of us can remember, the office was everything. It was the center of the universe for work, the default, the only way. But that's all been turned on its head, right? What we're looking at now, this isn't just some passing trend. It's a massive, fundamental rethink of where and how we actually get our work done.
So that begs the big question, doesn't it? If that old 9-to-5 office model is on its way out, what's coming next? What does that actually mean for all of us?
Okay, so let's talk about the remote work revolution. This used to be a super niche thing, right? Something only a few people in specific jobs did. Well, that completely exploded. Recent events didn't just encourage this trend, they strapped a rocket to it. Companies had to figure it out, overnight. And this giant, global experiment showed us two things: the amazing possibilities and, some of the really tricky parts of having a team spread all over the place.
So, let's dive into the upside of remote. And honestly, there's a lot to talk about here. We're not just talking about minor perks. These benefits can be absolutely life-changing, and it creates this amazing win-win situation for pretty much everyone involved.
And that's what's so cool about this. It's not like one side wins and the other loses. The benefits aren't just for the employees or just for the employers. When you do it right, remote work really is a win-win for the people on the ground and the company as a whole. Let's start with employees. For you, for me, the benefits can be, and I mean this genuinely, life-changing. We're talking about the freedom to build your workday around your actual life, instead of squeezing your life into the gaps around work. Just think about getting all that commute time back. Being able to work from anywhere, it all adds up to way less stress and, unsurprisingly, people are just a lot happier in their jobs.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. This quote really brings it home. It's a perfect example of how that flexibility makes a real-world difference. This person's colleague, she went from struggling with the morning chaos to seamlessly managing her family schedule. And what happened? Her productivity shot through the roof and her stress just melted away. It's all about letting people manage their entire lives, and when you do that, they can show up as their best selves at work.
Okay, so now let's flip the coin and look at it from the employer's side. The advantages here are absolutely massive. The most obvious one? Cha-ching! You save a ton of money on overhead when you don't need a giant office building. But here's the real game changer. You're not stuck hiring people who live within a 30-mile radius anymore. You can find the absolute best person for the job, period, whether they're in the next town over or on the other side of the planet. That is a huge, huge advantage when you're trying to find top talent.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Of course not. This whole shift comes with a pretty serious set of challenges. And if you just ignore them, you can basically wipe out all those benefits we just talked about. So we have to tackle these things head on.
And maybe the biggest one, the most human one, is just feeling isolated. Think about it. All those little moments in an office, the chat by the coffee machine, grabbing lunch together, that random idea that pops up when you bump into someone in the hall. All of that just vanishes. And without those natural points of connection, it's really easy to start feeling lonely and totally disconnected from your team.
Yeah, and the list goes on. How are you supposed to build a great team culture when you're never actually together in the same room? What about cybersecurity? That's a huge one. How do you keep company secrets safe when everyone's on their own home Wi-Fi? Communication can get tricky, you lose all that body language, and just keeping people motivated and engaged, well, it takes a whole lot more intentional effort.
All right, so we've laid out the good and the bad. But here's the thing, making this work isn't magic. It's not automatic. You need a strategy, a real playbook. So let's talk about the concrete steps you can take to solve these problems.
So, to fight that loneliness we talked about, you have to be super intentional about building connection. This means setting up clear communication channels, sure, like Slack or whatever you use. But it's also about carving out time for the fun stuff, the non-work chats. Think virtual coffee breaks, maybe some online team games. And regular check-ins? Absolutely non-negotiable. It's the only way to make sure people feel seen, heard, and supported.
And then there's security. And on this one, you just can't mess around. You're basically building a digital fortress around your company. So yeah, that means getting everyone the right tools like VPNs. But honestly, the technology's only half the battle.
The other half is training and more training. Every single person on the team needs to be a pro at spotting a phishing email and understand that they're the first line of defense.
You know, a huge piece of this puzzle is leadership. It requires a total mindset shift for managers. You have to stop managing by looking over someone's shoulder and start managing by looking at the results. It all comes down to setting super clear goals, actually trusting your team to get the job done, and leading with a ton of empathy. The best leaders in this new world, they're coaches, not cops.
Okay, so when you put it all together, the incredible benefits and the very real challenges, where does that leave us? Where is all of this going? Well, it seems like more and more, the consensus is pointing to one answer. The future probably isn't 100% remote, and it's definitely not 100% in the office. The future is hybrid.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page, what is a hybrid model? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a mix. It's a way of setting things up to try and get the absolute best of both worlds. You get the awesome flexibility and deep focus that comes with working remotely, and you get the energy and teamwork that happens when people are together in person. And the logic behind it is really smart, right? Use your days at home for the heads-down, focused work where you really need to concentrate. Then use your days in the office for the stuff that's just better when you're face-to-face. Big brainstorming sessions, team building, that kind of creative spark. It's really about being strategic and using each space for what it's best for.
So if there's one thing I want you to walk away with today, it's this. Making remote or hybrid work is not as simple as flipping a switch. It's not something that just happens. It takes real, thoughtful planning. You need the right tech, you absolutely have to have a culture of trust, and you've got to be willing to learn and adapt as you go. You have to build it on purpose.
And that really brings us to the final question, the big one at the heart of this whole conversation. It often feels like we're being forced to make a choice, doesn't it? Flexibility versus connection. Do we pick the freedom to work wherever we want, or do we pick the energy of being with our colleagues? Well, the whole promise of a really well thought out hybrid future is that maybe, just maybe, that's a false choice. Maybe we can have both. What do you think?